In the quiet of ancient times, there was a goddess unlike any other. Her name was Athena, born not from earth, but from thought. She rose from the mind of Zeus, radiant with wisdom and light. She was not chaos nor fury, but calm and measured strength. Athena carried not just the spear of battle, but the vision of peace. Her power was the power of strategy, foresight, and careful choice. She was the protector of cities, the guardian of justice, the voice of reason. In her stories, victory does not come from force, but from clarity of mind. She offers the olive tree, symbol of peace, instead of the storm of Poseidon. She guides heroes, not with weapons, but with wisdom and courage. The owl by her side sees through the night, as she sees through illusion. Athena reminds us that the greatest battles are fought within. The triumph of patience over anger, of vision over impulse. Her story is not only of gods and myths, but of timeless lessons. Tonight, we walk with her through tales of strategy and thought. This is not the story of war, but of wisdom that endures. This is the strategy of Athena. Long ago, when the sky still trembled with thunder, a mystery unfolded among the gods. Zeus, the ruler of Olympus, was restless. His mind weighed with a secret burden. A strange pain grew in his head, sharp and unrelenting, unlike anything he had ever known. The other gods watched in silence, uncertain of what would emerge from their king. This was no ordinary ache, but the birth of something extraordinary, something divine. Then, with a crack like lightning tearing the sky, the moment of revelation came. From the very mind of Zeus, a figure leapt forth, radiant with brilliance and grace. It was Athena, born in full armor, shining with a light that was not of battle, but of thought. Unlike others who rose from earth or sea, she was born of wisdom itself. Her first breath was not a cry, but a silence that carried power and calm. The gods looked upon her with awe, for she came not as fury, but as clarity. Athena embodied the union of strength and intellect, of courage guided by vision. Her birth told the world that true might begins not in muscle, but in mind. This was no ordinary arrival, but a symbol written in the fabric of myth. Zeus, though shaken, looked upon her with pride, seeing in her a reflection of order. Athena stood tall, her gaze steady, her presence both gentle and commanding. She did not rush forward as a warrior hungry for conquest. Instead, she carried the calm of one who knows the deeper purpose of power. She was the wisdom that tempers fire, the strategy that steadies the hand. The gods felt the shift in Olympus, as if a new balance had been born. With Athena's arrival, wisdom became a force as real as thunder or flame. She wore her armor not as a symbol of destruction, but as a shield of justice. Her spear was not raised in anger, but in readiness, a promise of defense. Even in that first moment, her essence was clear. Vision before action, reason before force. The birth of Athena was more than myth. It was a lesson whispered to humankind. It told us that strength without thought is wild, but thought with strength is divine. In her, the world saw the truth. Strategy is not the absence of courage, but its guide. Her story begins not in chaos, but in the stillness of a mind awakened. Athena's birth reminds us that every great creation starts with an idea shaped with patience, nurtured with care, and brought forth with purpose. She came forth fully formed, a symbol that wisdom is whole when it appears. No child's weakness, no time of growth, only the completeness of insight. Athena's arrival taught that clarity comes not in fragments, but as a sudden light. Her shining figure was the dawn of a new kind of strength on Olympus. Not the strength that conquers with fear, but the strength that leads with wisdom. Her story is an invitation to remember that the mind is a battlefield of its own. It is in thought where decisions are shaped, where futures are drawn. Athena stands as the guardian of this truth, born from thought to guide thought. Her first lesson is simple, yet eternal. All victories begin in the mind. So when we tell of her birth, we tell of more than a goddess. We tell of the moment wisdom itself entered the world, radiant and eternal. This is the first step in the strategy of Athena, where all strength begins. The world was young, and the land of Attica waited for a protector to shape its destiny. The gods of Olympus watched over the region, each desiring to leave their eternal mark. Among them was Poseidon, lord of the sea, fierce and proud, with the power of storms. He longed to claim the land, to see his waves crash upon its shores in dominion. Athena too stepped forward, calm yet resolute, her wisdom steady as the still dawn. The contest was declared. Each would offer a gift, and the people would choose their guardian. Poseidon strode first, striking the earth with his trident, splitting stone with thunderous force. From the wound in the ground, a great spring of water surged, shimmering with power. The people marveled, yet tasted its salt, for it bore the flavor of the endless sea. It was a gift of strength, but also of uncertainty, wild and untamed like the ocean. Then Athena came forth, quiet and thoughtful, her eyes shining with patient foresight. She touched the earth gently, and from the soil rose a slender branch of green. It was an olive tree, its leaves silver in the sunlight, humble yet enduring. The people looked upon it, seeing not a storm, but a promise that would last. The tree offered fruit for nourishment, oil for light, and wood for warmth and craft. It was not loud in its arrival, but steady, a symbol of life and peace. The crowd whispered, their hearts leaning toward the gift that gave more than power. The gods themselves paused, recognizing the wisdom in her simple offering. For where Poseidon's spring spoke of might, Athena's tree spoke of future. It spoke of cities built on prosperity, not chaos, of families thriving, not struggling. The people raised their voices and chose Athena, crowning her as the patron of their land. And so the city was named Athens, forever bearing her spirit in its name. From that moment, the olive tree stood as her symbol, its roots deep and enduring. It was more than a plant, it was a promise, a strategy of patience and growth. Athena had shown that true guardianship is not to rule, but to nurture. Her gift was not of conquest, but of creation, of giving rather than taking. She taught that wisdom does not seek the storm, but plants the seed of tomorrow. The people flourished under her watch, guided by the balance she brought. Trade, art, and thought found roots as deep as the olive branches above. Athena's strategy was clear. Choose the path that builds, not the one that consumes. Poseidon's gift was grand, but fleeting. Hers was humble, but eternal. This contest was not of power, but of vision, and vision prevailed. The olive tree became the emblem of Athens, a city of reason and philosophy. Its shade offered peace, its fruit gave life, its oil lit the nights of thinkers. From that single act, a civilization was born that cherished dialogue over destruction. Athena had given them not a weapon, but a way of living wisely. Her lesson was simple. The strongest gift is the one that sustains life. The gods dispersed, but the people remembered, carrying her wisdom in their hearts. The land grew, the city thrived, and her name echoed in temples and stories. Even now, the olive branch is held high as a sign of peace across the world. It whispers still of Athena's choice, gentle yet unshakable in its meaning. This was her second lesson. Prosperity is the fruit of patience and vision. And so Athens stood, a city born not of storms, but of wisdom rooted in the earth. This is the olive tree of Athena, her timeless strategy for a lasting future. In the heart of Olympus, Athena was known not only as a warrior, but as a master of craft. She carried in her spirit a love for skill, invention, and the patient hand of creation. While others glorified thunder or flame, she honored the quiet labor of human hands. To her, every tool, every woven thread, every shaped vessel was a kind of miracle. For wisdom was not only in battle plans, but in the art of building and making. Athena descended often to guide mortals, whispering knowledge of craft and design. She taught the weaver how to spin threads into cloth, strong yet delicate like thought. She taught the potter how to shape clay, giving form to earth with steady hands. She taught builders to raise walls with harmony, so that homes would stand for centuries. Every act of creation, she believed, was a strategy to resist chaos and decay. Her gifts were not for glory, but for sustenance, for beauty, for the flourishing of life. Where Poseidon gave storms, she gave patterns of weaving that held families warm at night. Where Ares gave war, she gave tools that tilled the earth and brought forth food. She showed mortals that progress was a victory as grand as any triumph in war. The loom became her symbol, the rhythm of its threads echoing the rhythm of thought. The tapestry was not only cloth, but a story, a strategy woven into living color. Athena taught that skill requires patience, and patience itself is a form of strength. The weaver who learns to wait for each thread learns to wait for wisdom in life. The craftsman who shapes clay slowly learns that rushing brings only broken forms. Through these lessons, she planted strategy into the daily lives of mortals. Every pot, every cloth, every crafted tool was a reminder of her steady guidance. And the people loved her not only for her power, but for her closeness to their work. She was a goddess who valued the humble effort as much as the heroic deed. Athena's wisdom lived in every workshop, in every loom, in every hand that created. In her presence, mortals learned that creation is resistance against the emptiness of time. She taught that what we build lasts longer than the fleeting roar of battle. A soldier may win a war, but a builder leaves a city standing for generations. Her lesson was clear. True strategy invests in what endures beyond the moment. Athena was patient with her teachings, never forcing, always guiding like a quiet flame. She valued practice, discipline, and the calm pursuit of mastery. Mortals came to see her not only as protector, but as a teacher in their homes. Her spirit lived in the loom, in the hammer, in the careful shaping of tools. Each invention, no matter how small, was a gift that made life richer and safer. In her wisdom, even a thread had meaning, binding lives together in strength. Her presence turned work into art, and art into strategy, and strategy into life. For Athena, to create was to honor both mind and world in equal measure. She showed that wisdom is not lofty and distant, but woven into daily labor. And thus, her third lesson was revealed, quiet yet enduring. Strategy is not only found in great battles, but in the patient craft of hands. It is in the loom, the potter's wheel, the builder's stone, the steady act of making. Through craft, humanity learns to plan, to shape, to imagine, and to endure. This is the strategy of Athena. Creation as victory. Wisdom in every humble work. In every age of myth, heroes rose from the earth, bold and daring, yet uncertain in their paths. They carried courage in their hearts, but courage without wisdom is like fire without control. Athena, guardian of strategy, stepped beside them, unseen yet always near in counsel. She did not fight their battles for them, but placed clarity in their thoughts and vision. Among her beloved was Odysseus, the wanderer, whose mind was as sharp as the sea winds. When storms raged and monsters threatened, it was Athena's guidance that lit his way. She whispered patience when haste would have doomed him, and cunning when strength alone failed. Through her, he learned that endurance is as vital as bravery, and wit as sharp as any blade. Another was Perseus, the youth burdened with a task beyond his strength or skill. He faced a foe too terrible to behold, yet Athena did not give him the sword to strike. Instead, she gave him a polished shield, a mirror to turn danger into vision. With her counsel, he used reflection as weapon, proving that strategy conquers fear. Heracles, too mighty in form, was not left without her steady hand of wisdom. Though stronger than all, he faltered in confusion, until Athena taught him restraint. She reminded him that even the greatest strength needs purpose, or it turns to ruin. Her gift to him was not power, but clarity, the calm to measure his own might. For every hero, her role was not to overshadow, but to illuminate their own light. She taught them to see choices where others saw only chaos or despair. Her lessons were subtle: courage with wisdom, strength with patience, vision with humility. She guided, but never controlled. For true wisdom allows freedom to grow. Heroes returned from trials not boasting of divine rescue, but of their own sharpened skill. Yet behind every triumph lay the quiet counsel of the goddess of thought. Her strategy was never to claim glory, but to empower those she guided. For what is victory, if not the shaping of a soul toward greater wisdom? Athena's presence in their stories revealed a truth deeper than any battle won: that the greatest heroes are not those who strike hardest, but those who think clearly. A shield of reflection, a whispered word, a moment of patience. These were her gifts, and in them lay victories more lasting than the swing of any sword. The people saw their heroes thrive and knew Athena's hand had been near. They built temples to her not only as warrior, but as counselor and protector. She was the goddess who walked beside mortals, not above them in distance. Her wisdom was the unseen companion, the light within every trial. Through Odysseus, Perseus, and Heracles, her lesson was written into myth: that guidance, strategy, and vision can shape destinies more than brute force. Athena proved that even the strongest must pause and listen to wisdom, and even the weakest can rise if they carry foresight and clarity in their hearts. In her guidance of heroes, the world learned its fourth lesson: wisdom does not fight the battle, but it wins the war within the mind. And so Athena's strategy endures, not to conquer for us, but to awaken our strength. This is her way, the quiet voice that shapes legends into lasting truth. In the heart of Athens, the air shimmered with anticipation and the weight of destiny. The people gathered, uncertain of their city's future, seeking guidance from the gods above. Two mighty deities turned their gaze toward this rising land, each with a gift to offer. Poseidon, lord of the sea, lifted his trident high and struck the ground with power. From the earth surged a fountain of salt water, roaring with the promise of naval might. It spoke of conquest, of ships that could travel far and rule the endless waves. The people marveled, yet fear lingered, for salt water could not quench thirst or feed them. Then came Athena, calm and radiant, her presence steady as dawn's first light. She did not strike with force, but gently pressed her spear into the soil. From that touch rose an olive tree, humble yet filled with boundless meaning. Its branches promised food, oil for fire, wood for building, and peace for the soul. The people saw not just survival, but a life shaped by balance and prosperity. Athena's gift was not thunderous, but enduring, a vision for generations to come. In that moment, the people knew wisdom outweighed the lure of raw strength. They crowned her the patron of their city, naming it Athens in eternal honor. The olive tree became their emblem, its roots deep, its branches stretching to the sky. It stood as a living symbol of Athena's strategy, to build where others sought to destroy. The people celebrated, but Athena herself remained serene, knowing the true meaning of choice. For she had shown them that a city's greatness is not in fleeting power, but in vision. Poseidon, though mighty, departed with the waves, leaving the lesson clear in its simplicity. The gods may dazzle with wonders, yet wisdom lies in what sustains and endures. Athena had given more than a tree. She had planted a way of life. Her gift carried peace in its roots and progress in its branches. The olive tree grew, season after season, as witness to the city's rise. Through war and peace, famine and feast, its presence reminded Athenians of their choice to follow a path of balance, strategy, and vision rather than reckless conquest. Athena's gift was not only for survival, but for the flourishing of culture and mind. Around its shade, poets sang, philosophers debated, and children played without fear. It was under its branches that wisdom became the soul of Athens. Athena's strategy was subtle, yet its effects rippled across centuries like calm waves. She had proven that the strongest foundation is not built on force, but on foresight. And so Athens thrived, a city where wisdom and strength walked hand in hand. Its people carried the mark of their goddess, not in conquest, but in culture. They built temples to honor her, not as a warrior alone, but as a guardian of life. Her olive tree became more than a plant. It became the essence of their destiny. The world looked upon Athens and saw a city defined by thought, not by trident or blade. Athena's choice had shaped history, proving that gentle wisdom can outlast roaring storms. For true, power is not what dazzles in the moment, but what nurtures through time. And so the olive tree stood, evergreen, whispering her lesson to all who passed. That vision, not violence, builds a legacy that endures beyond the ages. Through this gift, the world learned the fifth lesson of her strategy, that wisdom is not only guidance in battle, but the root of prosperity itself. The Parthenon rose in marble and light, a temple not only of stone, but of devotion. Every column told a story, every carving whispered of the goddess who guided Athens. The people built it not just to worship, but to honor wisdom made visible in their city. Inside stood a statue of Athena, tall and serene, holding victory in her hand. Gold and ivory gleamed upon her form, yet it was her presence that filled the space. For Athenians, this was not merely a goddess of war, but of thought and balance. Her temple became a beacon, drawing pilgrims, philosophers, and dreamers from afar. They came not only to pray, but to reflect on the ideals she embodied. The Parthenon was more than stone. It was an idea, a sanctuary of the mind. Around its steps, debates flourished, voices weaving reason into the heart of society. Philosophers spoke of justice, beauty, and truth, echoing the goddess's silent counsel. Athena was not seen in battle cries here, but in reasoned words and thoughtful choices. The city grew into a cradle of learning, shaped by her enduring influence. Artists painted, sculptors carved, and poets sang, inspired by the clarity she offered. Every stroke of art carried her essence. strategy not only for war, but for life. She taught that beauty itself was a form of wisdom, harmony woven into existence. In the theater, tragedies and comedies alike echoed her lesson of foresight and choice. Athena's temple stood steady through laughter, tears, and the quiet awe of its people. The olive branches at its gates reminded them of her first gift to the city. A tree and a temple, one living, one eternal, bound Athens to her spirit. Even when storms of history swept through, the Parthenon remained a symbol of resilience. It whispered that wisdom could not be destroyed, for it lived within the soul. Athenians carried this belief into their lives, shaping laws and guiding decisions. They saw their city not as a fortress of stone, but as a sanctuary of thought. Every visitor to the Parthenon felt the calm strength of Athena's invisible hand. Her presence inspired humility in leaders and vision in those who dreamed of more. Through her, Athens sought not domination, but enlightenment that reached beyond its walls. And thus, the Parthenon became not just Athens' heart, but the world's heritage. Its columns stood as pillars of an idea that wisdom can guide nations to greatness. Athena's temple was a reminder that true strategy shapes not only battles, but cultures. She had given them more than protection. She had given them identity and purpose. In the marble halls, one could sense her silence, stronger than any shouted command. Her gaze seemed to rest upon all who entered, urging them toward balance and clarity. This was the sixth lesson of her strategy, carved not in words, but in stone. That wisdom must be honored, not only in thought, but in the structures we build. The Parthenon was not just a temple, but a promise kept between goddess and city. It showed that when wisdom is placed at the center, a society can endure the ages. Through Athena's temple, the world learned that the divine can live in the human spirit. And that strategy is not only action, but the creation of spaces for wisdom to grow. So the Parthenon stands, timeless, echoing her voice across centuries. It is her way made visible, her gift made eternal, her wisdom written in stone. In the heart of Athens, the agora stirred with voices, a marketplace of goods and of ideas. Merchants sold olives, cloth, and pottery, but beyond trade, debates lit the air with thought. Here, Athena's influence flowed strongest, guiding minds as they wrestled with questions of life. Philosophers gathered beneath shaded porticos, their words echoing like waves against stone walls. They asked not what was easy, but what was true, what was just, what was lasting. Athena's wisdom was not a shout, but a whisper, urging clarity in the noise of many voices. Socrates walked among them, barefoot and humble, questioning with calm yet relentless persistence. He carried no scrolls, no riches, only questions that peeled away illusion and revealed the core. His method was not to teach answers, but to awaken thought, a practice reflecting Athena's gift. The people listened, sometimes impatient, sometimes inspired, yet always stirred to reflection. Through him, Athena's presence was felt, not as divine decree, but as sharpened reason. Her strategy lived in dialogue, in the courage to admit ignorance and seek truth anew. Then came Plato, his mind weaving vision into words, building worlds of thought unshaken by time. He imagined a realm of forms, where ideals of justice and beauty stood eternal and pure. In his academy, wisdom grew as a flame passed from hand to hand. Athena's hand seemed present in the halls, guiding students to marry logic with vision. Through him, her influence became structure, a foundation for generations to build upon. And then Aristotle, keen-eyed, turned his gaze to the world as it is, not as it seems. He studied nature, politics, ethics, finding order in the patterns of the living world. His reason was practical, his thought applied, bringing Athena's clarity to everyday life. From the smallest leaf to the stars above, he sought wisdom in all things. Athena's light burned through his curiosity, teaching that knowledge itself is a sacred pursuit. The agora buzzed with their words, ideas flowing like rivers that carved new landscapes of thought. Athenians learned that wisdom was not locked in temples, but alive in their discourse. It was not only about worship, but about how they chose to live, act, and decide. Every question asked was a prayer. Every answer sought a reflection of the goddess's mind. Athena's strategy had planted not only trees or temples, but the roots of philosophy itself. She had shown that true power is not in ruling others, but in ruling one's own mind. The city became more than walls and streets. It became a cradle of wisdom for the world. Even strangers who came to Athens carried her lesson back to their distant lands. And thus, her strategy spread not by conquest, but by the quiet migration of ideas. Athena's legacy was not merely protection, but transformation, minds reshaped by thought. The agora remained her classroom, where voices rose and clashed, yet always sought truth. This was her seventh lesson, that wisdom grows in dialogue, in questions bravely asked, that clarity comes not from silence, but from the courage to speak and to listen. Through Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, her spirit lived. A light passed on through ages. Athena's strategy was not just to inspire, but to cultivate, to nurture minds to bloom. And so philosophy, born of Athens, carried her voice into eternity. Her presence remained unseen but undeniable in every question that seeks truth today. For the agora was never only of the past, it still echoes in us when we choose to think. In the heart of the city, the Parthenon rose, white marble gleaming under the sun. It was not only a temple but a symbol, a beacon of Athena's guiding hand. Each column stood like a hymn in stone, each carving a prayer frozen in time. The people of Athens built it not for wealth, but for gratitude and devotion. Inside, a statue of Athena stood tall, golden and radiant with serene strength. She held the spear in one hand, the shield in another, yet her eyes were calm. The goddess was not worshipped in fear, but in reverence for her wisdom and care. Pilgrims climbed the steps with offerings, not to plead, but to honor and to thank. The temple was more than stone. It was a dialogue between the divine and the mortal. Each festival, the Panathenaya, filled the streets with joy and celebration. Songs and dances rose to the sky, echoing gratitude for Athena's protection. Athenians wove a great robe, the peplos, embroidered with stories of the goddess. This robe was offered to her statue, a gift of devotion from the city she loved. The procession wound through the city, a living river of faith and pride. It was not only ritual, but a reminder of unity, of shared identity. For Athena had not only given wisdom, but the very sense of being Athenian. She was the thread that bound the people together in vision and purpose. The Parthenon itself became her eternal home, yet also the heart of Athens. Travelers from afar marveled at its beauty, carrying tales of the city's greatness. But Athena's strategy was never about marble or monuments alone. Her gift lay in the meaning those stones carried, in the stories they preserved. Each carving spoke of resilience. Each frieze told of harmony over chaos. The temple reminded Athenians not of war, but of balance, reason, and civic pride. Even the olive tree planted nearby whispered of her peaceful choice long ago. Its branches spread shade over travelers, a quiet reminder of her vision. The Parthenon's beauty was undeniable, yet its true power lay unseen. It was the way it gathered people together, instilling awe and reverence. Children gazed up at it and felt part of something larger than themselves. Elders prayed within its halls and remembered the goddess's lasting wisdom. In this way, Athena's presence was not distant, but near, woven into daily life. The Parthenon was both sanctuary and symbol, sacred yet civic. It stood not only for a goddess, but for ideals of wisdom, justice, and unity. Even as years passed, the temple endured storms, wars, and the wear of time. Yet the spirit it carried remained, as unbroken as Athena's gaze. Her strategy was subtle, yet enduring, building symbols that outlasted generations. Through architecture, she taught that beauty and meaning can shape a people's soul, that a city is more than walls, but the values its citizens choose to honor. Every stone of the Parthenon became a page in the book of human memory. Every column stood like a reminder that wisdom must also be celebrated. Athena's lesson here was clear. Strategy is not only in battle, but in legacy. That to inspire, one must create symbols that speak across centuries. The Parthenon was not just a house for the divine, but a mirror for humanity, a reflection of what a people valued and what they aspired to become. Athena's gift was not only protection, but vision, and Athens embraced it fully. Her temple stood eternal, her wisdom carved into the city's very heart. This was her eighth lesson. The true power is preserved in memory and meaning. That to build wisely is to build for eternity, shaping not just stone, but spirit. The sun rose over Athens, casting light on streets alive with voices and movement. Merchants set up stalls, children ran through alleys, and elders gathered to speak. But beneath the daily rhythm, decisions were being shaped that would guide the city. For in Athens, the assembly was the heart of civic life, a place of shared power. Men gathered to vote, to debate, to decide on matters of war, peace, and policy. Though imperfect, it was here that democracy began to take its first steps. Athena's presence was not in the votes themselves, but in the spirit behind them. She had given the people not just wisdom, but the courage to govern themselves. In the Knicks, citizens stood in the open air, their words rising with conviction. They argued fiercely, but the goal was not destruction. It was understanding. Every decision carried weight, for it was made not by kings, but by the people. Athena's strategy was clear: empower many voices to find a greater balance. The goddess did not favor tyranny or silence, but dialogue and shared rule. She knew that wisdom grows strongest when tested by many perspectives. In the assembly, farmers stood beside merchants, soldiers beside poets. Each man's voice, however humble, joined the chorus of the city's will. The process was not easy. Debates were long, tempers often rose. But Athena's influence lay in patience, in listening before deciding. The olive tree again served as a symbol, its branches many, its roots one. So too was the city, diverse in thought but united in purpose. Even mistakes, when made, became lessons for the whole community. Athena's gift was not perfection, but the ability to learn and adapt. Through her, Athens embraced the idea that power is not only for the few. That strategy means giving space for voices, even if they challenge one another. The city grew stronger, not by silencing dissent, but by weaving it into progress. Festivals celebrated not just gods, but the shared spirit of the people. The theater, too, became a place of reflection, where stories shaped civic thought. playwrights asked hard questions about justice, loyalty, and the fate of cities. Here again, Athena's wisdom guided, teaching through art as well as debate. The democracy of Athens was fragile, imperfect, but alive with energy. And in that energy, Athena's light burned steady, a beacon for generations. Her strategy was to teach that power shared is power strengthened. That wisdom lies not only in the mind of one, but in the voices of many. As the city thrived, visitors marveled not only at temples, but at its freedom. Athens became known not just for beauty, but for boldness in governance. Its influence spread far beyond its borders, inspiring minds across the seas. Athena's lesson in democracy was not only for Athens, but for humanity itself. That a city is strongest when its people see themselves as part of its fate. That leadership is not command, but responsibility carried together. The assembly echoed with voices, some loud, some soft, all part of the whole. And in their union, Athena's wisdom lived, not as myth, but as practice. This was her 9th lesson, that strategy is not control, but empowerment, that the greatest strength is found in giving others the chance to shape the path. Athena did not hand them answers. She handed them the courage to decide. And in doing so, she gave Athens a gift that outlived empires and kings. For democracy, like wisdom, is not a monument, but a living flame. And as long as it burns, Athena's strategy endures, lighting the way forward. Far from the marble of Athens, the sea carried ships toward distant shores. These ships bore more than goods. They carried the spirit of the city itself. Merchants and travelers spoke of Athens, its wisdom, its laws, its vibrant debates. In taverns and ports, tales of the goddess and her people found eager listeners. Athena's strategy was subtle yet enduring, spreading ideas as quietly as trade. No army marched to conquer, yet her influence crossed mountains and oceans. For wisdom once spoken cannot be bound by walls or borders. It drifts like seeds on the wind, planting in the minds of strangers. Athens became a beacon, a light shining for those seeking knowledge. Schools of thought arose beyond Greece, inspired by its philosophers and poets. Even rulers sought guidance in Athens' balance of freedom and order. Athena's strategy revealed that true power lies not in force, but in persuasion. A story told in one city became wisdom shared across the known world. The olive branch, symbol of peace, traveled as far as the ships would go. Its meaning endured. Strength through unity, prosperity through wisdom. Her influence shaped not just politics, but art, theater, and science alike. Architects studied the Parthenon's balance, poets admired Athens's plays. Mathematicians and thinkers carried questions sparked in the Athenian agora. In every discipline, Athena's guiding hand was present, unseen yet profound. Generations later, Rome admired Athens, calling it the teacher of nations. Even as empires rose and fell, the wisdom of the goddess endured. Athena's strategy was timeless. Ideas outlast swords. Dialogue outlasts conquest. She had planted wisdom like a tree, and its branches reached every land. Through stories, songs, and memory, her influence crossed centuries with ease. Travelers spoke of democracy, of voices joined to guide a city's fate. Others carried plays that asked eternal questions about justice and truth. Still others learned of Athens' temples, marveling at beauty shaped by vision. In every retelling, Athena's light grew brighter, never dimmed by distance. The goddess had taught that wisdom cannot be contained, only shared. That ideas, once awakened, live far beyond their place of birth. In this, Athens became immortal, not in war, but in thought. Her strategy shaped the legacy of the city, giving it eternal life. For while walls crumble and empires vanish, wisdom carries on. The voice of Athena whispered still in courts, in theaters, in assemblies. It guided leaders, inspired artists, and comforted seekers of truth. Athena did not demand temples abroad, only the practice of her lessons. Her influence lived in minds, not merely in monuments of stone. This was her 10th lesson, that the most powerful gift is one that spreads. That ideas, once shared, are stronger than any fortress or army. Athena's wisdom flowed like rivers, crossing lands, carving paths unseen. She showed the world that strategy is not to dominate, but to inspire. Athens became not only a city, but a symbol, a voice of humanity. The gift of Athena was not Athens alone, but all who listened. Her legacy stretched wide, enduring in every place touched by thought. For wisdom, like light, belongs not to one, but to all. And so her strategy continues, reaching even us, telling us her story today. The story of Athena is not one of battles fought with blades or blood. It is a story of choices, of wisdom carried through time like a flame. Athena's power was never in destruction, but in the vision to create and endure. Her olive tree still whispers in the wind, its roots deep, its branches wide. It reminds us that peace, once chosen, can outlast storms and shadows. Her strategy was never for one city alone, but for all who seek clarity. For Athens was not just a place, it was an idea, a living testament to wisdom. And ideas, unlike stone, cannot crumble, for they live in every mind awakened. Athena's presence lingers wherever questions are asked with honesty. She is there when leaders choose patience over anger, reason over pride. She is there when communities come together, many voices shaping one path. She is there when an artist creates, when a thinker dares to ask why. In these moments, the goddess of wisdom still breathes through the world. Her lessons remain simple, yet eternal. Listen, reflect, act with foresight. Choose peace when it builds. Choose courage when it matters. Choose vision always. The strategy of Athena was never finished, for it continues in us today. Every time we pause to think before acting, her voice is alive within. Every time we nurture dialogue instead of conflict, we walk her ancient path. Every time we pass wisdom to another, the flame grows brighter. And so, her story does not end in the ruins of marble or myth. It endures in classrooms, in parliaments, in quiet talks beneath old trees. It endures in every question that seeks truth, in every answer shaped with care. Athena's gaze was steady, not fixed on victory, but on endurance. Her gift was not conquest, but legacy, not force, but illumination. The owl still flies, silent and sharp-eyed, guiding us through uncertainty. The olive tree still stands, offering shade, fruit, and peace without demand. Both are her symbols, reminders that strategy begins in wisdom, not war. The city she loved has changed, yet its light still reaches across time. Athens taught the world that wisdom is a foundation stronger than stone, that to lead wisely is to serve, to listen, and to nurture growth. Athena gave her people not answers, but the courage to seek them, and that is why her presence feels eternal, woven into the human spirit. Her story ends only when we stop asking, stop seeking, stop learning. But as long as the world still hungers for truth, Athena remains. Her temple may stand in ruins, yet her strategy is unbroken. For wisdom, unlike stone, is not bound to crumble. It renews with each mind. The greatest battles are not waged on fields, but within our choices. Athena's gift is the reminder that clarity can triumph over chaos, that foresight can shape the future, that patience can preserve peace. This is her final lesson. Strategy is not the art of war, but of life. To live with reason, with vision, with the courage to choose wisely. Athena's story is ancient, yet it feels close, as if whispered today. It tells us that wisdom is not a relic, but a guide forever near. And so, as we close her tale, we carry her voice within us. Not as myth, but as compass pointing toward balance, justice, and peace. The strategy of Athena endures, not in marble or in memory, but in us. And as long as we seek wisdom, her story will never fade.